Wow, so in the previous videos, I told you guys that there was no evidence of any election fraud, but it turns out I was wrong. Not only was there fraud, but we just found out that the Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger was pressured by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham to see if he could find a way to toss out legally cast mail-in ballots. But whoa, let's take it back a second. It seems we have yet another Trump projection. Whatever he accuses the other side of doing is what he and his Republican Party are actually doing to us. Now, of course, Lady G denied it, but in fact, we have video of him telling Sean Hannity that if the US elections continue to count mail-in ballots as votes, then Republicans will never win the White House again.
Somebody is up to no good in these nursing homes. We don't need their permission to look into these allegations. We owe it to those who voted for President Trump and the country at large to test this system. If we don't deal with voting by mail in 2020, we'll never win the White House again. The biggest issue, the biggest difference between 2016 and 2020 is the mass use of voting by mail. It is the wild, wild west at post offices, and there are no rules. And if we don't come up with some rules pretty soon, we're going to get killed in perpetuity in presidential campaigns. And I worry about Georgia.
Just think about that. We have an elected official looking you in the eyes, telling you that your vote should not count. And this was Trump's strategy the whole time, to undermine the integrity of mail-in ballots, even though they've been used in every other election, which of course is something Peter Navarro, one of Trump's aides, just doesn't seem to understand.
Because as far as I'm concerned, Donald J. Trump is going to have a second term based on everything I'm seeing in terms of these voting irregularities. You see what's interesting, Chris, is you just see a whole bunch of strange things going on that I think should give the American people pause with respect to these results that the mainstream media seems to want to shove down our throat. I find it curious, Chris, that we went through months of poll suppression with the mainstream media telling us that President Donald J. Trump was going to get just trounced in a landslide. Poll suppression with these. I mean, it's just crazy. It's now it's a 50-50 election where President Trump likely won when you account for all these voter abnormalities.
No, Peter, it's not strange. That is how mail-in ballots work. They are counted later. The in-person votes come in first, which gave the red mirage that Trump was winning, and then, as expected, they counted the mail-in ballots, which are primarily Democratic, and Biden took the lead. And I also will add that you were wrong about the polls. It, in fact, was a landslide. If you count 306 electoral votes a landslide, as I know Kellyanne Conway did when Donald Trump beat Hillary by the exact same amount. But we know Peter's just spewing this on Newsmax, which is the only media outlet that will air his propaganda, as he'll most likely be unemployed by the time January 20th comes around, and Joe Biden fires him. And hopefully Biden can start getting to work on defeating this coronavirus, because it's clear that Trump has given up and surrendered completely to COVID, showing that he really doesn't care about Americans, and he never did. I mean, look, the President of the United States hasn't been to a COVID task force meeting in 5 months, but he's had enough time to play golf 3 times since losing the election. And that's not the most disturbing part about the current COVID task force. One of the heads, Dr. Scott Atlas, sent out a tweet encouraging Michigan citizens to rise up against Governor Gretchen Whitmer after she announced she'd be putting new coronavirus lockdowns and restrictions on the state because of the recent spike. I mean, look at that hashtag step up. This is just a month after the FBI arrested a group of right-wing extremists who were plotting to kidnap and potentially murder her. So there's no wonder why America still hasn't figured out this virus. And again, Biden could get started, except for the fact that the GSA head, Emily Murphy, still hasn't signed off on the transition because she was appointed by Trump. The only person we should be listening to is Dr. Anthony Fauci, whom just 2 weeks ago was threatened by Steve Bannon in a video that has been removed from YouTube, or else I'd show it to you guys, of him asking for the decapitation of Dr. Anthony Fauci, literally stating that he wanted to see his head on a pike in front of the White House. Not only is this a disturbing thing to hear, but again, it's distracting Dr. Fauci from doing what he needs to do, which is figure out how to beat this thing. But luckily, Fauci didn't pay Bannon one shred of attention.
When you have public figures like Bannon calling for your beheading, that's really kind of unusual, I think. That's not the kind of thing you think about when you're going through medical school to become a physician. You know, people calling for you to be beheaded, fired, thrown in the fire pit or whatever, that's just noise.
And as bad as the Steve Bannon video was, it still was not removed from Facebook, which is ironic because the message we keep hearing from Republicans is that big tech only censors conservatives and lets liberals do whatever the hell they want, which is false. But you wouldn't know that if you watched Fox News and listened to Jim Jordan talk about his alternate reality of the current media bias that is happening to only conservatives.
Legislation, Congressman, to remove Section 230 for media companies. Do you think you'll be able to get that through? What are your thoughts on the censorship we're seeing?
We're not going to be able to get that through until Republicans take back the House. I mean, it's plain and simple. You think Jerry Nadler wants tech companies to treat everyone fairly and not censor conservatives, not censor the president? So look, we introduced a bill 12.
So Jim, if that's the case, why didn't Zuckerberg remove the Bannon video? You guys, it is evident that Republicans will now say or do anything to deny the reality that they are living in, which is that Joe Biden will be their next president and that Donald Trump lost. Period. It's over. And not only did he lose, he lost by a landslide. And boy, does that feel good to say. You guys, we are nearing December, which means winter is coming. And I can only imagine the crazy stuff that's about to go down in America, particularly at the White House. And you know I'm going to be covering it all, so make sure you subscribe for daily videos, and I will continue to uncover the truth.